Is the U.S. immigration system failing both its citizens and immigrants, or is it a necessary safeguard for national security? Are undocumented immigrants an economic burden or a vital contributor to the U.S. economy? Does the definition of a nation-state need to evolve in an era of global interconnectedness? Or should borders remain rigid to preserve national identity?
Welcome back to the Mass Debate channel, where we take deep dives into meaty matters. In today's episode, we dive into the heated debate over illegal immigration, exploring the economic, social, and political impacts from both conservative and liberal viewpoints. Stay tuned for a thought-provoking discussion.
Welcome to our deep dive, everyone. We're tackling immigration in America today.
Sounds like a big one.
Yeah, it is. And you guys sent in a ton of great sources.
Looks like it.
We've got articles from the Pew Research Center, a medical journal, even a piece about the history of Ellis Island.
Wow.
Yeah, and some discussion guides, too, laying out different viewpoints on all the issues. So it's really going to be like a crash course.
Immigration 101.
Exactly.
And, you know, it's a really important topic right now.
For sure.
It's always in the headlines, so the more we understand, the better.
Absolutely. And, you know, one thing that really stood out to me from the Pew Research Center was the fact that a record 1 in 10 eligible voters in the U.S. are naturalized citizens.
Wow.
That's almost 24 million people.
That is a lot.
Yeah, and it's not just a statistic. It's a rapidly growing voting bloc with the potential to really shake things up.
Yeah. You know what's fascinating about that is this group is actually growing faster than the U.S.-born electorate. So, you know, you've got these demographic differences that could have a significant impact on elections, you know?
Yeah.
For example, naturalized citizens tend to be older.
Okay.
They often have higher household incomes and are slightly more likely to have a bachelor's degree.
Interesting.
So think about it. Campaigns are going to have to tailor their messages to appeal to this growing segment.
Like a whole new ball game.
Right.
And speaking of demographics, the Pew Research Center also highlighted something that I thought was really interesting. The complex relationship between Black Americans and immigration.
Yeah.
It's interesting because while they generally view immigrants positively, they also see them as competitors in the job market.
Right. Yeah, that raises an important question about economic equity. You know, how do we make sure we're addressing concerns about job security among Black Americans while also, you know, recognizing the contributions of immigrants?
Absolutely.
We really need policies that work for everyone.
And, you know, the research showed that more Black than white Americans report losing jobs or not getting hired due to immigrant workers. So it's definitely a sensitive issue, but it deserves more attention and more discussion.
Yeah.
For sure.
For sure.
Now, let's move on to maybe the legal and ethical aspects of immigration.
Okay.
The discussion guides that you sent in really offered a spectrum of viewpoints on this.
I bet.
From national security and economic impact to humanitarian considerations and the rule of law.
It's like everybody's got an opinion on this.
It seems like it.
Yeah.
And this complexity is really evident when we look at the ethical challenges faced by healthcare providers treating undocumented immigrants with serious medical conditions.
Yeah.
One article from a medical journal highlighted a conflict between a doctor's oath to provide care and state laws restricting access to state-funded care.
Oh, wow. That's tough.
Talk about a moral dilemma.
Yeah.
It really is. And speaking of history, I found the piece on Ellis Island fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
Millions of immigrants passed through its gates.
I know, it's crazy.
It was like a gateway to opportunity, but also a site of rigorous inspections.
Right.
And sometimes even separation and heartbreak.
It's really powerful when you think about it.
Yeah.
Ellis Island reminds us how immigration has shaped our country.
Definitely.
It makes you think about how today's immigration patterns compare to those of the past, you know?
Yeah.
What lessons can we draw, and how have the challenges and opportunities, you know, changed over time?
And it's amazing to think how much has changed.
Right.
Yet some issues remain the same.
Yeah.
One statistic from our source on education really stood out to me. Immigration is projected to account for 96% of the growth in the school-age population over the next 50 years.
96%.
Yeah, almost the entire growth.
That is a lot.
I know.
And that underscores the need to invest in our education system, especially in those communities that are most affected.
For sure.
Think about the implications for, your local schools.
Yeah.
Potential overcrowding.
Right. Teacher shortages, language barriers, and, the need for more resources.
Yeah.
It's a big challenge.
It is.
But it's also a huge opportunity to create a more inclusive and diverse learning environment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really does make you think, immigration isn't just some abstract policy debate.
Right.
It's impacting, our schools, our communities, our everyday lives.
Absolutely.
And speaking of those, really hot button issues,
Yeah.
let's look at the U.S.-Mexico border.
Okay.
The Pew Research Center report you sent in really paints a vivid picture of, the tension surrounding this whole topic.
It's definitely a lightning rod issue.
Yeah.
And the data really shows that.
Oh, yeah.
The report highlights that a whopping 78% of Americans see the large number of migrants at the southern border as either a crisis or a major problem.
Wow.
So it's a top concern across the board, even though there's a split on how to define the issue itself.
It seems like everyone's talking about it.
But no one can agree on what to do about it.
Right.
The report also found that only 18% of Americans approve of how the government is handling the situation.
Yeah, that's
not great.
Not great. No, those are some seriously low approval ratings.
Yeah.
Even for a topic as controversial as immigration, the government's facing a real crisis of confidence on this.
So what's at the root of all this?
Yeah.
What are people most worried about?
Well, the Pew report actually gives some insight into that.
Okay.
When you ask Americans about their concerns regarding this influx of migrants, they most frequently cite economic burdens and security concerns.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean...
People are worried about the strain on, resources and social services. And then, of course, you've got the anxieties about crime and terrorism, even drug trafficking.
Exactly. And, we have to acknowledge that those anxieties are often amplified by political rhetoric and media coverage.
For sure.
It's hard to separate fact from fiction sometimes.
Yeah, it's like everyone's shouting, but no one's listening.
Right.
So what does the public think should be done about it?
Yeah.
Does the Pew report offer any solutions?
Well, it presents 9 different policy proposals.
Okay.
And let's just say there's no magic bullet,
Whoa.
Public opinion is pretty split on most of them, especially along party lines.
So no easy answers.
Not exactly.
Okay.
However, the report did highlight 2 areas with at least some bipartisan support.
Okay.
Increasing the number of immigration judges to speed up asylum decisions.
Got it.
And also creating more opportunities for legal immigration.
So it sounds like people are really frustrated with the current system and this huge backlog of cases. They want to see a more, efficient and well-defined process.
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of ties back into what we were talking about earlier, with the growing number of naturalized citizens.
Right.
There's clearly this big demand for these legal pathways, but the current system just isn't keeping up.
But when you talk about those more controversial proposals, like building a border wall or increasing resources for migrants, that's when that partisan divide really widens.
Oh, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head there.
Okay.
Republicans strongly support the border wall as a way to enhance security, while Democrats are a lot more skeptical.
Makes sense.
Yeah, they see it as ineffective and potentially even harmful.
It's a classic example of how, different values and priorities shape our views on this.
For sure. And that same dynamic plays out when you look at proposals for providing more support and resources to migrants when they arrive.
Okay.
Democrats tend to see this as a humanitarian issue, while Republicans are a lot more concerned about encouraging more illegal immigration.
So it really boils down to this core tension between those who prioritize border security and those who prioritize compassion and humanitarian aid.
That's the crux of it. Yeah, it's a complex problem with no easy answers. And as we've seen, the public is deeply divided.
It's a good reminder that even when we disagree, it's crucial to approach these discussions with empathy and respect for other perspective.
Couldn't agree more. The more we can understand where others are coming from, the better equipped we'll be to find those solutions that work for everyone.
Real sad. So we've explored public opinion on the border.
Yeah.
Examined some potential solutions. But I feel like there's still so much more to unpack here.
Right.
What else do our sources reveal about the complexities of immigration in America?
Well, let's turn our attention to the impact of immigration on another crucial area, America's schools.
Yes. I'm particularly interested in those statistics we mentioned earlier about the projected growth of the school-age population.
Oh.
I mean, that's a trend with huge implications for everyone involved.
Right.
Educators, students, communities alike. All right, so let's dive into how immigration is shaping the future of education in America.
Yeah.
We know from our sources that immigration is projected to drive a staggering 96%
Right.
of the growth in the school-age population over the next 50 years.
Yeah, it's a big change.
It's not just a shift. It's like a seismic change that will completely reshape the educational landscape as we know it.
And, you know, it's important to remember that immigration's impact on schools isn't exactly a new thing.
Right.
The U.S. has a long history of integrating immigrant children into its public education system.
For sure.
But the scale and pace of today's immigration are definitely unprecedented.
Right. And our source on the impact of immigration on schools brought up a landmark Supreme Court case, Plyler v. Doe.
Oh, yeah.
Back in 1982, it ruled that states can't deny students a free public education based on their immigration status.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Plyler v. Doe established a fundamental right to education for all children living in the U.S., regardless of their legal status.
So it's really a cornerstone of our system.
Yeah.
But even with that legal precedent, our sources suggest that many schools are struggling to keep up with the influx of immigrant students.
Yeah, that's true.
You've got overcrowded classrooms, teacher shortages, language barriers.
Right.
These are very real challenges, and they often hit under-resourced schools the hardest.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of schools just don't have the resources to adequately support these new students.
Yeah.
Especially those who, you know, need additional language instruction or other specialized services.
And it's not just about funding, though, is it?
No.
It's also about creating a welcoming and inclusive environment
Right.
where these students feel safe and supported.
Yeah, I mean, a student's social and emotional well-being is just as important as their academic progress.
For sure.
Schools need to be places where every child feels valued and respected, regardless of their background.
And this brings up another point from our sources, this ongoing debate about bilingual education. Some people argue that it's absolutely crucial to help English language learners catch up,
Right.
while others worry that it hinders their integration and slows down the learning process for native English speakers.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
It is.
There are valid points on both sides. The key is finding that balance.
Right.
You know, meeting everyone's needs while making sure that English language learners have the support they need.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just language, too.
Yeah.
It's about cultural understanding.
Right.
Schools need to be sensitive to those cultural differences that immigrant students bring.
For sure.
And create a curriculum that really reflects that diversity.
I think that a multicultural approach to education really benefits everyone.
I agree.
It fosters empathy, understanding, and a sense of global citizenship, which is important for all students, you know, as they prepare for a future where they'll be interacting with people from all over the world.
Absolutely. So it's clear that immigration is putting some pressure on our schools.
Yeah.
But it also presents a chance to build a more vibrant and inclusive learning environment.
It's a challenge and an opportunity.
Yeah.
We can kind of reimagine what education can be in this increasingly diverse society.
And this deep dive has really driven home the point that investing in education is investing in our collective future.
That's a good way to put it.
When we educate all children, we build a stronger society for everyone.
Well said. That's a powerful message, especially now when, you know, immigration is often framed as a threat. But the reality is it's a vital source of our nation's strength and dynamism.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into immigration in America, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, we've seen that immigration is this multifaceted issue that touches every corner of American life.
Right.
Our elections, our economy, our healthcare system, our schools, our communities. It brings up a lot of strong emotion, diverse opinions, and it's constantly changing.
And it's also deeply personal. Behind the statistics and the policy debates are real people with real lives and real stories.
Absolutely.
So as you go forward, think about this.
Yeah.
What role can you play in shaping a more just and compassionate immigration system?
That's a good question.
It is.
One worth reflecting on and, more importantly, acting on.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We hope it's given you a better understanding of this complex and ever-evolving issue.
Yeah.
And more importantly, we hope it sparked your curiosity to learn more
Right.
and to get involved in this crucial conversation.
Walls rise and higher, voices loud, laws and freezes, dreams and fears. Doors close, but hearts stay open, seeking truth in the words spoken. Stories hold of hope and laughter through the shades of ever after. Lines gone, but hearts keep beating. In this land where dreams